Yeah, all right. So I'm going to just have you shout out your question, and I'm going to repeat it for the camera, and then, okay, go for it.
I noticed that you guys have incredible synergy. It's like you're a one line back and forth, and that is beautiful, and it's awesome, it's incredible, but
Thank you.
I also know that you're welcome. There's also a lot of different opinions about education. So can you talk about times when you disagree and how you work that out, and things that you disagree about?
So the question was that you have a lot of synergy, and clearly there's a lot of harmony going on. But how do you deal with when you disagree with each other?
Well, I think now each other. You mean like Max and I, or like me and the professors, or?
That's a good question too, but I'm also interested in how you interact, how you work out.
Have we ever disagreed?
I don't think we have.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's coming, but
I mean, one way we could answer that question is perhaps we could say times we've been in schools and we've run into some philosophical differences.
Yeah, in terms of because we've kind of shared out. We're very much alikes in terms of how we do things, and I think we both respectfully know that there are certain things that I'm stronger at, and there's certain things that Max is stronger at. So when we work together, we kind of just build on those strengths as opposed to highlighting the weaknesses that we may have. So I don't think we've really had a disagreement. So if there's something I'm weak in and he's strong in it, we just supplement and complement each other in that regard. But to delve really quickly into the teachers, sometimes I know that teaching is not all the time. Teaching is a very tiring profession. And it's a very exhaustive profession, and I have so much respect for it because when I was in the 6th grade, it was one teacher and 30 kids, and she kept them and held them down. But there were also better parental guidances taking place in the home. I know a lot of that has been slightly tossed to the side for whatever reason, and now you have one teacher, one teacher's aide, one teacher's assistant, a one-on-one, somebody else walking in and the principal saying, hey, I need to stop doing that, in some schools. And I'd say that if you expect a different outcome, you should provide a different input. Because a lot of times, if there's a student who will get upset if you touch his shoulder and say, hey, stop doing that, that's not going to change his response, So I think that our approach sometimes is, and Max and I have spoken about this, like if there are kids that are slightly being disruptive, so let's say if there were one or two people talking, sometimes teachers want complete, absolute silence. They're kids. That's very impossible. Like sometimes it's hard to get absolute silence with adults. Like he's eating some food, she just left. Hopefully have a nice day and safe travels.
Oh, come on,
as you leave. You know what I mean? So all these things are happening. You know what I mean? But it's a matter of, are you engaging your audience? And your audience is your students, and you have to know your audience. I'm sorry, I said way too much.
No, and I think to add on to that, sure, it's great to bring arts into schools, but I think schools aren't exactly set up to bring the arts into them yet, for the most part. Physical spaces are not set up for that. Study schedules are not set up for that. I think there's some hope in terms of Common Core and having the concept of larger times of study of bigger chunks of things in more depth versus many, many, many small objectives in a very superficial way. So that's promising to me. But really, I think if we looked at the physical spaces of schools, I know there's some designers out here right now. That's been I can't hardly find my way here from my house. So I'm not very visually oriented, but design people really need to get into schools, like quickly, because the spaces aren't set up for successful learning.
Word.
Next question? Yes. So the question was, I know, don't. How long have you been doing it? And since that time, have you seen any changes in the schools? Go.
I'll let you answer this one.
Thank you. I taught high school for 5 years, starting in 2003. And then I taught middle school for 2 years following that. And then I got involved with young audiences for the last 4. So in roughly 11 years, I've seen probably not very much tangible change. A lot of discussion, and I think a lot of minds opening. But not if you go into a school, it doesn't look all that different than it looked like 11 years ago. In fact, it doesn't look very...
So everything that you're saying, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's going to take a much larger effort from a much larger group of people with more diverse sort of awareness. Because once you are in a school building, as I've been, you can get bogged down in the culture of that specific building. And then these loftier goals of wanting to systematically change things become very difficult to reach at. And I think that's the value. Some people say, well, what do we need to have artists in schools for? Like, we have art teachers, and we do have art teachers, we do have music teachers. But I think there is value. We call them public schools, right? There's value to having the public involved in the schools. And I've seen a lot of schools where they actually try to keep the public away. And I guarantee you, if the public doesn't get more involved, nothing will change. So, yes, Root?
I have a slightly different approach to it. I agree with what Max said, but my approach is sometimes
this
the problem.
time you guys are going to disagree?
No, because I agree. This is kind of like a caveat to the depth.
And there's the answer to your question. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You were about to say something.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to almost disagree with you. I'm sorry. So buildings, right? Buildings mean nothing if people aren't in them. I have seen micro changes in students and individuals. But in terms of the overarching school system, I've seen it get worse since I was in school. But that perception could also be skewed because now that I'm older, I see a bigger picture of things. You know what I mean? And when I was younger, I was a little bit more aloof to certain things. I felt I was an astute child growing up, and there are some things that are just, objectively worse now than they were when I was younger. But I think these children have a harder opportunity to stay even more focused. Like, if ADD doesn't exist physically, which it does, the fact that everything is so instantaneous and expected and demanded now, you know what I mean? Like people are more concerned of taking a picture of capturing a moment than actually being and existing in a moment. You know what I mean? There are people who had their phones out now watching me and watching Max do our thing, but hopefully they were also enjoying the moment that was taking place. Not like, oh man, I can't wait till I get home to watch this. Well, you're here right now watching it.
And a quick question regarding that. At least in my experience, if I take a picture, maybe 1 out of 20 of those pictures do I actually look back at. Is that true for other people? I don't know.
Yeah, and even the medium of taking pictures now was different. So at first you had the film. So you were very careful about which pictures you took and how you took them, because you'd have to wait like 24 hours or 3 weeks or whatever to go to CVS, People's Drug, to go get your camera back, right? So when you did that, it was different, So to go back to your question directly, working in a residency, I can see a change. Working in Wolf Trap, I can see a change in the students, but I don't know how big that change is going to be just yet. So working in a kindergarten class, and I'm coming in, and the kids don't know how to answer a question with a sentence. I'll say, hey, well, how many seasons in the month are there? How many seasons of the year are there? Blue. 7. What? So by the end of the residency, how many seasons of the month are there? Season of the year. 4. What are they? Spring, summer, winter, fall. Yeah.
But why were they able to do that?
Now, they were able to do that because I think there's an ephemeral quality that we have. So there's an artist that comes in there's an artist that's already there, and there are teachers that are already there. But raise your hand if you had a parent that told you not to do something and you did it anyway, and then somebody else who was random told you not to do something and you listened.
Yep.
Because what they did, they created an experience, right? So you remember the experience. You probably even remember what that person was wearing. They might have said, oh, this random, your parents say you're beautiful all the time. But until your favorite boy or girl in your school says you're cute, it doesn't mean anything until you hear that. Oh, wow, you're cute. Oh, I'm so cute. I really am cute. You've been cute. You've been beautiful. You've been whatever. You know what I mean? So I think that experience, they remember when Mr. Root comes to the classroom and was silly and he kicked his leg up like this and he did that, and then he said reading is fun. You know what I mean? They were like, reading is fun. How was it? Because he did this. You know what I mean? So I think that we're so focused, and to go back to the teachers thing, teachers are tired because there's so many things that they're required to do before they even start teaching kids now. You know what I mean? So they can keep their jobs, and they're being observed crazy, you know what I mean? And some of it's necessary because some teachers are jaded in a bad way, but some teachers are just exhausted, man, you know? So I think there are changes, but I would love to see more.
All right, I think we have time for one last question. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Man, you trying to get me fired,
So-
man. I'm just get up.
Wait. Okay, every time. The question was basically, can you describe your creative process for your curriculum or your lesson plans?
Kick this one off, Root.
Go.
Man, what? Say no. Yes. There's several different ways. One thing I love with working with young audiences is there's a structure. You know what I mean? And I think working and freestyling within a structure is even better than just going off the cuff. You know what I mean? So when I'm working with teachers, I'll say, okay, well, what's going on in your lesson right now? What are your curriculum ideas? What are you guys working on? What is required for you to have right now if somebody comes in and observes you? So a teacher might say, well, we're working on fractions, or we're working on teen numbers or something like that. And I'll say, that seems cool. Now, another artist might say, well, this is what I already know how to do, so we're going to do this, and you're going to help me. You know what I mean? But Max and I, we like to say, okay, well, what do you need? And not only will that help me be better, I want to see if we can give you some skills.
More chances of failure in that direction, though.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
You open yourself up to failure.
Right, we do, but you don't. Success feels so much better when you do that. So I'm like, okay, well, if they're working on fractions, and I've never done any raps about fractions, or I've never done any movement or hip-hop related pieces about fractions, that's a challenge for me to see how I can tie that in, how I can tie that art world in to that part of the life that's needed. Because what's cool about hip-hop is you take advantage of what's available. So we go back to the building that you're in. If your building is dilapidated and terrible, you can still have great art and great students in that classroom, but it depends on the mindset of the people who are in the building. You know what I mean? So,
and as to the process, if I could, the process is we identify the major objective from the academic standpoint, fractions, and we identify the major objective from the musical standpoint, duration of notes. And then from there, once we have those two objectives, what we're trying to do is find a natural way that we can use what we do as artists that naturally connects. One of the things with arts integration that should be talked about is the fact that there are natural connections and there are not so natural connections, which is a good argument for having lots of people that are trying to do this, because for me or Root, we have probably a certain number of natural connections. And from there, you're kind of stretching it out maybe into areas that we're not as familiar with as artists. But once we've found that natural connection, then usually we will sort of present a mechanism to the teachers. Like, here's a rhythm chart. It's 4 boxes, and you can divide those boxes. And then the teacher goes, all right, that will work. Here's what I see as a good flow. The best lessons work when the teachers themselves actually diagram the flow of the lesson. That's where teachers are really expert. Would you agree?
Definitely,
yeah?
100%.
And then finally, there's some refinement that goes on. A lot of this happens by email. The best situations is when you have the opportunity for face-to-face planning. However, talking about scheduling, that is difficult. In some schools that we work in, literally prohibited. Either by for whatever reason. Like we say, teachers are exhausted a lot of times. So they don't necessarily want to hang out with you at 3:30 when they have 2 kids they have to pick up. So there are these reality challenges, but finally there's some refinement that goes on, and then we do it, and it's very experimental sometimes, honestly.
Yeah, sometimes we just freestyle something. I'll just freestyle something. I'll be like, okay, well, this is the lesson, and if it's waning, like, I know Jerry Seinfeld's philosophy is stick to your material. You know what I'm saying? When he's doing a stand-up, even if he's dying out there, he's going to stick to his material and go down with the ship. Well, I don't like swimming all the time, so I'm like, oh, this ain't working. And if I could do that, wiggle your fingers. Let me get your attention real quick. And then I might be able to bring you back to the course that we were on. You know what I mean? If I can re-engage you. So it really depends. Some of it's freestyle, but a lot of it is based on prior knowledge and an organizational structure already. I hope that answers your question.
I'm going to take the last question. So I see you have your information up there. Can you tell us, if we wanted to hear you more, what events or shows might be coming up in your near future?
Dun, 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 dun. This Saturday. What is it? It's at the Play Hookah Lounge on what street?
West
is
21st
that?
Street.
Thank you, West 21st Street. Thank you. 4 West 21st Street.
Right near Charles.
Right near Charles Street. It's in between Charles and Maryland, actually. And then after that is Howard and a Partridge. Okay, so it's right there, and I'm going to be performing with a very phenomenal artist by the name of Jahiti. And it's going to be called the Fishbowl. So that venue is taking place this Saturday at about 8 o'clock. My next performance will be, I'll actually be at the convention center this Saturday. And I'll be working with Justin Allen from What Weekly and a whole bunch of other people who are working towards
Shout out to What Weekly.
the Green
Street Academy.
Green Street Academy. And I'll be at the Baltimore Convention Center. Then that's a free event. The next event is my New Year's Eve party. I'll be hosting and performing with my live band at the Bamboo, which is on Franklin Town, off of Route 40. Really beautiful spot. And there'll be, libations and things that adult people do there. And that'll be awesome. So
I would invite people out on Sunday, if you'd like to, learn to play the steel pan. We're doing a steel pan beatboxing workshop at 49 West in Annapolis. And I'm doing it in collaboration with Kevin Martin, also part of Young Audiences. Come down. It's starting around like 6 p.m. The workshop is about an hour and a half or so. You'll learn to play probably 4 to 5 full songs on the steel pan. I'll be supporting the workshop with some percussion. And after that, have a couple rum punches maybe. And then after that, we'll have a concert. So you can come for the workshop and the concert, come for just the concert. It's at 49 West in Annapolis. So I invite everybody to come down Sunday. Yes, it is.
In the New Year's Eve, when you could bring your kids, we could all drink together. That was a joke. That's not
earmuffs,
true.
Earmuffs. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Huge round of applause.